In the previous episode, you learned about the different core survival beliefs of various survival mechanism categories and also the survival traits of wanted children. These foundational beliefs play a significant role in the development of human structure. Today, we are going to delve deeper into the survival traits of another category and how these beliefs shape our identity to protect our bodies. This mechanism is the primary protective shield that helps us to keep our bodies safe and alive. The topic for today's episode is partly wanted children and their survival traits. To know in depth about it, you can read chapter 18 of the book, Stop Surviving, Start Living with Freedom. A word of caution before we proceed further. When I refer to partly wanted child or partly wanted children, I am referring to the personality type and not an actual child or children. The categories persist from infancy to adulthood. Before understanding the survival trait, keep in mind that I thoroughly investigate the personalities before drawing conclusion. Don't judge people based on one or two traits and reflect on their totality before forming conclusion. Random interpretation of survival traits can be misleading. Secondly, I want to clarify that I don't mean to suggest that individuals demonstrating this trait is doing so intentionally. These traits are ingrained in our unconscious mind, and the partly wanted children tend to operate from that system, with survival being their basic instinct. This means that the entire process is automated and they are essentially on autopilot. My purpose is to help people recognize their core survival traits and possibly help them get off the autopilot. That can only happen when you know who you are and then make conscious decisions to overcome your limitation and live life freely. So let's dive deeper into the survival traits of partly wanted children. The first survival trait, overly pleasing others. During pregnancy or at birth, partly wanted children have received the message from one of the creators that they are unwanted. This creates a feeling of not being entirely accepted and that they start to yearn for acceptance. They become eager to pleasing others at all cost, fearing being labeled as bad boys or bad girls. When asked what would happen if they were seen as such, their response is, "Others will not like me." They strive to maintain a positive image in the eyes of everyone they encounter, being naturally friendly, warm, and amiable. Making enemies is not in their nature, as their need for acceptance overrides the desire to be enemies with anyone. This deep internal craving drives them towards admiration, acknowledgement, and attention, often causing them to go overboard in their effort to please everyone and avoid being disliked or disowned. Individuals who are partly wanted may feel like substitute players in a soccer team. This feeling of being a replacement can lead to a perception of insignificance and a desire to be more valuable. These individuals desire to play a main role in the team and make their presence felt. By being of value to others, they aim to prove their worth and earn the prominence they deserve. Basically, they are doing all of it to ensure survival. The more they are acknowledged and liked, the more they feel their survival is guaranteed. One of my clients was affectionately called Sweetie by her family due to her helpful and obedient nature. She was the third girl child in the family. Sweetie entered a love marriage and had children. She was a devoted wife, always trying her best to please her husband. Her husband was a dominating and a controlling person, but she hoped that he would change someday. For 15 years, Sweetie continued to strive to make her husband happy. However, reaching a breaking point, she began to stand up for herself and express her opinions. Yet, her husband would argue and shout her down. The next day, Sweetie would apologize and patch things up. She would say, "I am doing this for the sake of my children." The second survival trait, they are good boys and good girls. It is possible that one of the parents unintentionally conveyed to their children through their emotions that they are not fully wanted. As a result, partly wanted children may put in a lot of efforts to please that parents who hasn't accepted them. To them, that parent's approval is of utmost importance. This underlying desire to be accepted causes them to strive to be good boys and good girls. They may work hard to do well in school and try to receive praises in other areas as well, all in an effort to make their parents proud and gain the missing acceptance. They may go to great length to make the parents' life comfortable, including household chores or doing the parents' tasks instead of focusing on their own enjoyment. Their happiness depends on others, so they do their best to avoid disappointing anyone. The whole mechanism of gaining acceptance and feeling secure about their survival. Other than the parents, partly wanted children desire to make others happy. They feel safe and comfortable when those they care about are satisfied with them. As they mature, they strive to please everyone around them, beginning with their parents and relatives, and when they get married, they aim to satisfy their spouse and their family. They even go beyond the family circle, trying to please their bosses by taking on additional work. They can be best described as good son, good daughter, good brother, good sister, good husband, good wife, good son-in-law, good daughter-in-law, good employee, good friend, and so on. They always try to fulfill their given roles to the best of their abilities. When a child is partly wanted by their parents, they may develop a pattern of behaviors where they try to fit into a certain personality to earn their parents' love and approval. This can continue into adulthood, and the person may not even realize that they are caught in an unconscious trap. Essentially, they are seeking acceptance from their parents and may go to great lengths to achieve it. The third survival trait, non-assertive, yes man or yes woman. It is common for partly wanted children to develop a non-assertive personality due to their tendencies to please others. Saying no to others is particularly challenging for them, which can lead to being taken advantage of by others who exploit their non-assertiveness and a strong work ethics. They can manifest into the workplace where the colleagues may regularly dump work on their desk. Furthermore, they may be overly accepting of criticism from their bosses, even when it is undeserved. They fear rejection and believe that saying no will result in not being accepted by others. Unfortunately, this can lead to a situation where they prioritize making others happy over their own happiness. A successful businessman had a habit of always obeying his father and never declined his request, even if they put him in a difficult financial situation. One such request was to fund a luxurious holiday trip to Switzerland for his two younger siblings and their families. Despite facing financial difficulties in his business, the man paid for all the expenses of the trip using his company's account. In their personal lives, individuals who grew up as partly wanted children tend to become non-assertive, yes men or yes women. They agree to every request made of them, even if they don't like it. They are like an obedient children who do not bother their mother during meal times. Even if they don't like what has been fed, they will not throw it out, nor will they express it, but gulp it down. They do not make demands, throw tantrums, or cause any trouble. Tim was the youngest of the 7 siblings in his family. Now in his 60s, Tim is experiencing issues with his wife. Throughout his life, he has been a good son, brother, husband, and a provider for the family. He would go to work, help his wife with household chores, even learn to cook after retirement. While Tim treated his wife with kindness and respect, she often belittled and humiliated him in front of others, including their children. Despite this, Tim always tried to please her and never said no. However, lately, his efforts have proven futile, as his wife remains dissatisfied with him no matter what he does. The fourth survival trait, highly obedient and conforming. Partly wanted children would like to go by the rule book or the instruction manual provided to them. They hardly challenge or oppose authorities as they believe that going against the seniors will endanger the survival. This individual strictly adhere to the norms and rules and regulations without questioning them. Because they want acceptance, they become docile and obedient, thinking that's the way life is. Their survival mechanism compels them to avoid asking questions. Thus, they succumb to conforming to be good boys and good girls. Most often, they will end up apologizing to others even when they are not at fault or it's not even their mistake. They want to maintain peace and harmony, but a compromised one. One of my clients, Meena, name changed, has been married for 7 years and has a child. She came to me seeking advice on how to deal with a relationship issue involving her husband and in-laws. Throughout her life, she has been obedient and a good girl, always striving to please her family. After marriage, she continued to be a good wife and a good daughter-in-law. But despite her effort, nobody seems to be happy. She often found herself apologizing for things that were not her fault. And when she finally confronted her in-laws in anger, she immediately felt guilty and apologized again. When asked why she always apologizes, even when she is not at fault, her response was, "I don't like disharmony within the family." Meena eventually made peace with the in-laws, but it was only a temporary transactional solution. The fifth survival trait, non-confronting nature, skirting issues. Children who are partly wanted tend to avoid confrontation and prefer to skirt issues instead of addressing them. They would rather let go and suffer the losses than tackle problem up front. While this may buy temporary artificial peace in the short run, in the long run, they pay a heavy price for their internal peace. There are situations where a person should assert themselves by saying no. However, individuals who are partly wanted children may find it difficult to do so. They tend to avoid directly refusing someone's request or would rather skirt around the issue. They fear displeasing others and being judged as a bad person. This response is an unconscious survival mechanism to feel secure. Sunny, a partly wanted child, who had lent some of his savings to his cousin. Despite multiple requests, the amount was never returned. Unfortunately, this was not the first time that Sunny had been taken advantage of by the same person. Rather than confronting his cousin, Sunny would make excuses to avoid meeting him. Sixth survival trait, sympathetic and generous towards others. Partly wanted children are naturally compassionate individuals who possess a kind and sympathetic heart. They are generous and selfless creatures who are willing to walk the extra miles for those they care about. Their arms and shoulders are always available for others to rest on and cry. They do not anticipate much in return except for a simple act of acceptance. Once they receive even a small amount of assurance and appreciation, become strong advocates of others' causes. They are willing to believe anyone's sob story and may even give away their last penny. Unfortunately, some people may take advantage of their kindness and leave them feeling confused and hurt. The truth is, they haven't done anything wrong. They simply try to please others in order to be liked. This desire of acceptance can sometimes lead them to make errors in the judgment of people and situations. Partly wanted children are easily moved by sob stories of others. They have a strong desire to be sympathetic and show pity for the struggles and hardship that others face. Unfortunately, they often find it difficult to distinguish between genuine truth and over-exaggerated tales of sorrow and pain, as they are reluctant to ask probing questions due to their fear of being rejected. As a result, they frequently fall victim to the constructed stories of others, and they are willing to provide aid in any way they can, even if it means giving away their last penny or borrowing money from others. Although their intentions are noble, these individuals are affected by insecurities and a need to be accepted and valued, which makes them vulnerable to exploitation. Sunny's cousin had fooled him multiple times by borrowing money from him. However, Sunny found it difficult to say no or confront his cousin to return the money. As a result, he ended up becoming a victim of his cousin's tactics repeatedly. Every time his cousin would come up with a new sob story, and Sunny, driven by pity and sympathy, would lend him some of his saving. These are some of the primary survival traits of the partly wanted children. There are some more not discussed in this podcast. If you want to learn more, refer to the book mentioned earlier. If you can identify with the traits mentioned, then you could be a partly wanted child. However, if you feel only partly resonates with them or not at all, then you could be a wanted or unwanted child. To know more about the wanted child, refer to the previous episode. We will discuss the traits of unwanted children in the upcoming episodes. If you are a partly wanted child, it's time to consider how you want to live your life going forward. What changes do you want to make? Do you want to continue to please others and be a good boy or a good girl and non-assertive? It's time that you take a call, get off the autopilot, start living freely. To listen to more podcasts and to watch YouTube videos, please feel free to visit my website at www.livingwithfreedom.com. I also have 2 books available for purchase on various platforms: Stop Surviving, Start Living with Freedom, and The Self-Decoded. The better you know who you are and the working of your internal mechanism, the more likely you will experience joy and peace. In the upcoming podcast, you will have an opportunity to learn something new and unique. In the meantime, I encourage you to look for opportunities to express gratitude for everything around you. See you next week.